It's really great to be being here. To be here, it feels like a special gathering. Here we're all in a cave together, and I think we probably spend way too much time indoors. But there is a time to come into the cave and to gather for a sacred purpose. And I think, well, I'm using the word sacred purposefully here, because we're not here just to kind of tweak a few systems and to figure out a new way of adding up the numbers and a new way of allocating the numbers and a new way of measuring things. But we're part of a revolution that goes all the way to the bottom, that reaches the deepest level. This one? All right. That reaches the deepest questions that human beings ask themselves. Our civilization has answered those deep questions of who am I, why am I here, who are we as a people, where do we come from, where are we going? We've answered these in a certain way for thousands of years, and these answers are changing now. As the world falls apart and as we enter what Bayo was talking about, this time of being lost, this period of darkness. That's what happens when an old mythology falls apart. A mythology, an old system of explaining how the world works and who we are. And the money crisis that James was talking about just a little while ago is part of this overall breakdown. He was talking about the limits to growth that oil presents. But it's not just oil. I mean, some people think, well, we could replace oil with something else and continue the growth trajectory, which, as he very rightly says, is absolutely essential to making the economy as we know it work. But it's not just oil that we're running out of. Basically, economic growth means more and more things being sold. It doesn't mean more and more things being produced. It doesn't mean more and more things being shared. It means more and more things being sold, because that's the only basis that banks can lend money into existence and keep the system working. So you look at something like Colombia that our friend talked about this morning as a target for international investment. Why is it a target for international investment? It's because there are relationships in Colombia that have not yet been monetized, that have not yet been converted into services. And there are natural resources in Colombia that have not yet been converted into products. For example, people still know how to cook in Colombia. Well, that's something that people don't pay for in Colombia or in any traditional culture where you cook for family and friends and extended family, that's not something you pay for. But, and there's a business opportunity. We can take that away and sell it back again. And why then do people in Colombia support this investment? It's because something has been taken away already. Like the story that Manish told about that guy, Buji was his name? Everything has been taken away from him. The very basis of survival has been taken away because he has been separated from traditional agricultural knowledge and the knowledge of how to live with the land. That's all been taken away from him. And in that starving state, of course he's going to want a job at the Tata Steel factory. And it's not just economic things that have been taken away. It's identity. It's a sense of belonging in the universe that's been taken away. A traditional person lives in a matrix of relationship. Can look around and know the name of every hill and know the stories associated with that hill and know every face and know the stories behind that face and the story of that person's mother and grandmother. I love what Winona said. She said that she was privileged to live on land that her great-great-great-great-great-grandparents had lived on. That, usually we look at privilege as something that an authority structure conditionally grants to us. And we say that we are the most privileged people on earth. living in the West and having high incomes. But that itself is an ideological blinder that implicitly validates all of the things that money can buy. And we have to begin to change our conception of wealth so that it includes the totality of all the relationships that actually make us rich, so that we can look at any bird or any insect and know its sound, and look at any plant and know its smell, and know what kind of soil it grows in, and to know the person who grew our food and who prepared our food, and to sing our own songs again, and to be held in a matrix of stories that tells us who we are. When we're stripped of that, like Buji was stripped of that, then we become endlessly hungry for our lost connections and our lost beingness. It's not just connections, it's our beingness that has been stripped away from us. And so we consume and consume and consume, trying to recover the infinity of who we really are, of the infinity of who we really are, that we've been cut off from. That recovery takes many, many forms. And that's what unites so much of the work that people are doing here. And you sometimes maybe you'll run into somebody, and their work is in reforming the prison system or reforming the educational system, doing maybe even very small things, working with inner city youth or something like that. And the rational mind says, well, that's all very nice, but we're facing climate change here. We're facing gigantic macro-scale problems, and what does it really matter if the earth burns up with people in prison or with people not in prison? And so that stuff's not really very important. This leads to despair. And that feeling that I'm just one individual, which is part of our story, right? Because when we're cut off from our relationships, when we're cut off from the people and the land around us, then we feel alone in the universe. And that mythology of self echoes what science has told us, that you are basically a flesh robot programmed by your genes to maximize reproductive self-interest. And everybody else is that too, so we're all in competition with each other. So, right, so our scientific ideology, or you are a mass subject to forces in a universe of other masses, and that these forces are indifferent to your well-being, and that's who you are. So our scientific ideology contradicts our interbeingness, and our economic system contradicts our inner beingness, because it sure makes it seem that we're all in competition with each other. And this is what we're hungry to recover. But being separate selves in a universe of other renders us powerless to do anything about it. Because what is your little effort to help an elderly person in the hospice or something like that? How is that going to change? How is that going to affect global warming? Our worldview says that you cannot really change very much, because our worldview, the Newtonian worldview that's been passed on to us, says that things only change when you exert a force on those things. And how much force do you have at your disposal? And even if we all get together, how much force do we have compared to the force of the military-industrial complex? Not very much. That's why I like to say that the despair comes from the same place as the crisis comes from. It's written into our understanding of self and world, and that is what is collapsing today. As we enter a period of unknowing, a space between stories, a period of darkness, a period of being lost, when we don't know what things mean anymore, we don't even quite know what's real anymore. That's how deep the revolution goes that we're all a part of. And I see localization as part of this desire, part of this urge to reestablish the connected self. so that we can look around at each other and know each other's stories and know where the things that make life rich actually come from. To look at each other and say, my feeling that I've always had is true, that we do need each other, that my life is richer because you exist. In South Africa, they call that Ubuntu. I exist through your existence. So the challenge before us is, how do we create an economic system, or one challenge before us, not the challenge. I mean, really, I think I would agree with Winona. It's the people who are holding the ceremonies that are going to help us live. They've been waiting for a long time for us to receive what they know. But we've been so blinded by our story of the world that we've been unable to receive it. Because things looked like they were working pretty well a couple generations ago. This program of domination and control, it looked like it was working pretty well. Now, it's becoming obvious that it's not. It's becoming obvious that we are not, as we imagined, separate from this planet, but that we are, one more minute, okay. That what we do to the planet we are doing to ourselves, and that what happens to another person is happening to me, and that this feeling that we've had that we are not separate is true. Okay, so I think I'm going to, in the 30 seconds that remain, I want to just address one little thing here. As we enter this new story of the people that embraces our interconnectedness, that embraces our inner beingness and our non-separation from nature, as we enter this story, we all have to become storytellers of the new world. And each little piece of it that each one of us gets experientially, those moments of connection, those moments where we know that it's true, those are what we need to speak from. And that's why gatherings like this are so important. You could call it preaching to the choir. Yeah, but you know what? We need a choir that can sing really beautiful music together, so that as the story of the world breaks down, people will hear that music and they will be attracted to it. And we learn to sing together, and we learn to trust what we know. And in moments of weakness where we cannot trust and cannot believe what we know, we can look to each other. Look at all these people here, and they say, yeah, I know it too. And with each other's help, we stay strong in the new story of the people. No one can hold it alone. That would be more separation, wouldn't it? Thank you.